Good afternoon, beautiful people. Good afternoon, beautiful family. Welcome to a new episode of Bad Thought Therapy. I hope you and your family are well and warm. I'm cold. I'm so cold right now. It is probably about 16 degrees outside. And some of you know I'm a native Floridian born and raised. So if it gets below 70, I start feeling cold. It's cold. But I'm so grateful to be able to feel that cold, and I understand that we need it. And when it is winter, it is February the 1st, it is winter, so we need the cold. And God knew what He was doing when He made the four seasons. So I'm going to embrace it, and I'm going to do exactly what I encourage you to do every single week, and that is create your own warmth. Warmth on the inside, warmth on the outside. So we are given a powerful gift. And I don't know, I teach it to my students, but I need to start teaching it more to people that we have the creative ability to get the things that we want in life. And so I'm going to have a warm day. I'm going to get things done because of the grace of God. And I just want to stop by and share some things with you. So this episode is mainly going to be for women. Of course, anybody can listen. I was inspired to do it because I saw this short video on YouTube. And some creators, what they'll do is they'll find a video on social media and they'll post a clip of that video and then they'll do commentary. And I kind of do the same thing, but I'm low tech, so I don't have the actual original video, and I don't do all that. And of course, I am just really, my podcast is for audio. So I just want to say this even though I have slides just so that I can put something on YouTube, really I created this podcast to just be something you listen to while you're driving, while you're maybe cleaning up your house, while you're at work, that kind of thing. So I created it like that. But I was on YouTube and I saw that this one, and I won't say his name, this one content creator, he had posted a video of a young woman crying. And she was talking and trying to cry. It was very clear. She was emotionally upset. She was distraught. And what I saw from the video was that she was really hurting. And her message was to men. She addressed her message to men. And basically, she said something like, men, if you haven't healed, if you know that you're not going to do right by women, if you know you're going to hurt women, her message was sort of like, don't deal with women. And that was her message. And she was crying. Now, of course, I didn't see her original clip and I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw him and that little short clip. And his comment was something like, before he had acknowledged her pain or her frustration and disappointment with whatever she was going through in a relationship, he said, of course, in her video, and then go back. So in her video, she said something like, but I don't have anybody to talk to. I can just deduce that she meant she didn't have anyone to talk to about relationships and what to do because of her frustration, her pain, her disappointment. So his comment was, if basically, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm kind of putting everything in a nutshell. He basically commented like, well, if you had someone to talk to, if you had talked to someone, then you might have been able to avoid the pain in the first place. Well, there is some truth to that. There is a lot of credibility to that. And that's what I want to try to address. So in this episode, even though anybody could listen, I'm mainly talking to young women. I am a mother of a woman. I'm a firstborn. I have three sisters. I've been an educator for over 30 years, and most of these things that I'm teaching are things that I didn't learn through direct instruction. I had to learn the hard way. And that's not a good way to learn because, when you learn the hard way and it comes to relationships, it can be a matter of life and death. It can be a matter of disease or health, mental, physical. It's not something you want to learn through trial and error. So this is for the young women who want to be in a relationship. I'm 60 years old, over 60 years old now, and you want to be in a relationship. And here are some things that I have learned. I know that everybody's experience is unique, but as humans, we often share almost the same experiences, but just a slightly different variation. So this podcast is to help young women make better decisions about relationships. You don't want to go through what many of us have gone through. is where you go through things because you didn't know, through trial and error, and you're left with scars. You can be healed, you can be free, you can live a beautiful life, but there's something that God made that we can't get rid of unless it's a disease or death, and that's memory. So while you may heal from a toxic relationship, from, almost losing your life, or whatever the case may be, you can live and you can still be happy and you can have joy and peace. You are still left with the memories. And it really takes a lot to heal those memories. So I want to try to help somebody avoid some of the tears, some of the pain, all the negative emotions that go with when you allow yourself. Because what's interesting is she was talking to men, and she was telling men not to get involved with women unless they're healed. But I want to reverse it. And I want to say to young women, don't get involved unless you really understand everything you need to understand about relationships. I'm speaking to women now because ultimately, if you're in a bad relationship, it is because, and this is what the guy was trying to say, to be fair, he was trying to say this, you allowed yourself to be in this toxic relationship, and now you're dealing with the outcome of that or the consequences of that. And he basically was saying, well, if you had somebody to talk to. So I'm going to be big mama today, I'm going to be auntie, I'm going to be grandma, whatever you need me to be, and I'm going to share some things that I've learned. And of course, I want to encourage you to learn all you can on your own. We use Google for everything now. Google, okay, ways to have a better relationship, and try to seek out advice from older women who have lived and learned. And some of the pain that I've gone through, you may not have to go through. So just keep that in mind, and we're going to move forward. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you for listening, for learning with me. I always tell people I'm learning just as I teach. I teach and learn, I learn and teach. We are supposed to be lifelong learners, and I can never say or never feel like, oh, I know everything. I don't need to read a book. I don't need to listen to somebody. It's the total opposite for me. So you're learning with me, and I appreciate you. Don't forget to like this video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It will help, apparently. I'm a full-time educator, and I do podcasting on the side, but I'm almost at retirement, and I would love to continue to do more podcasting. So liking and describing helps me. Let's keep going, and I pray that you're blessed by this message. Okay, beautiful daughters. So as I mentioned earlier, the inspiration for this particular episode was a video that I saw of a young woman, beautiful young woman, crying and lamenting her frustrations to men about being in a relationship. The person who posted her video, his commentary was, and I'm saying this in a nutshell, basically she was responsible for her own pain because she chose to be in this toxic relationship, and she could have made a different decision, and she might have avoided this. And this is painful, but that's true. That's actually true. And I know from my own journey of healing and trying to understand some of the decisions that I made, I had to take full ownership for my life. And I always tell people that, they talk about this midlife crisis. Well, I call it a midlife awakening. And it's when I started looking back over my life and I started trying to understand myself and the decisions that I made. And I know some people say they don't have regrets, but I do have regrets. So, and I'm not, if you don't have regrets, I'm not knocking that, but I do. One of the things that I realized why I allowed myself to be mistreated was because I did not have a strong sense of self-love and identity and worth. I did not fully know my worth, and I did not have a lot of self-respect. And when you don't have that, people will treat you any kind of way and you will accept it. And it doesn't matter if you're in a relationship, like it's a romantic relationship, it could be a relationship with people on your job, it could be a relationship with other people in your family. But you have to really love yourself and respect yourself and have a sense of self-worth. And you have to know how you are supposed to be treated in the first place. Now, how do you get this self-worth and this self-love? Well, some people try to get it from who they are and what they can do and how they look. I couldn't get it from all that. I knew that. Okay. Some people may be deceived and get it from that. But really, what you have to get it from is the Most High God. You have to understand that God is the creator of love, He is the source of love, and that love does not come from people, it comes through people. So while you can be loved by people, that is not really the source of love. Love actually comes from God. God is love. And when you understand that the moment that you are created in your mother's womb, before you were created in your mother's womb, you were loved by God. And because you were loved by God and you are worthy of the best treatment, respect, dignity, affirmation, all of those positive things, you are worthy because you are a daughter, you are a son, you are a child of the Most High God. It's not about what you do. It's not about how you look. It's not about what you have or don't have. It's none of that. The mere fact that you came from the source of love, which is the Most High God, you are deserving to be respected and treated with love. And if people don't do that, what you have to understand is that you cannot convince them to love you. You cannot make a person love you. You can't make a person respect you. You have to learn how to accept everybody doesn't see you the way God sees you, and you have to let those people go. And I use this story to illustrate this point about how when people don't know your self-worth, they're going to treat you any kind of way. And you don't, that's not your problem. I want you to understand is that's not your problem because they don't have respect and love for you. That's a problem that they have to work out. And you have to stay out of trying to convince them that you are worthy of love. So I give this illustration based on a true story. I don't know when this happened because it's been so long ago, but it had to be like over 20 years ago. This man goes to an estate sale. He buys a bowl for a couple of bucks. Turns out this true story now, turns out this bowl is actually a bowl from one of the great Chinese dynasties. And the bowl is worth in the millions. And so the question becomes, why would someone sell $1 million bowl for a couple of bucks? And that is because that person, the seller, did not know the worth of the bowl. And that's what you got to understand in life as you navigate through life and you meet people. Everyone may not understand your value, your worth, but you have to have self-love, you have to have worth, you have to have a strong identity about who you are and about how you're supposed to be treated. As a child of God, you have to be treated with respect. Yes, people, you may interact with a person and they may not, understand respect because people come from different places, they've had different experiences. But once you say to a person, this is what I need you to do, and this is what I'm not going to tolerate, and that person has no regard, they don't think anything about what you just said, that means that that person doesn't respect you, simply put. And so in my next slide, somewhere in this presentation, I'm going to talk about how you don't get involved with those kind of people. You may know them, you may have an association with them in some way, but you don't let yourself personally get involved because you will end up not only like that young lady crying somewhere, but you could end up dead. And this happens every single day. And so knowing who you are and having a strong sense of self-worth and identity can literally be a matter of life and death. Because without self-love, without self-respect, and having a sense of self-worth, you will let yourself be mistreated and you can, end up being hurt very badly. And by the grace of God, some of us have survived situations like that. And I'm sharing so that you don't have to go through that. So you got to understand to And another illustration that I use to help you understand how you cannot get this, you cannot get the self-love and worth separate from God, is I want you to imagine, now right now I'm using a laptop to record this podcast, and my laptop is fully charged and is plugged up to the electrical outlet. But if I needed to unplug this laptop and move my location, my battery would only work for so long, and eventually the backup battery is going to run out of energy, and this laptop gonna cut off. When we're not connected to the source of love, the source of power, the source of wisdom, the source of everything, we are not going to be able to function at our best. We're not going to see what we need to see. We're not going to be able to do what we need to do to treat ourselves the right way and to be in healthy relationships with other people. That connection is what allows you to build and strengthen and nurture your sense of self-worth. A connection with the Most High God. And that connection, it all starts with you having an experience with God for yourself. And that usually happens through what we call prayer, which is simply communication with God. You're talking to God, you're listening to God, you are seeking out the presence of God in your life. And because God is a spirit, you don't see him, it's not a physical thing. But because when we were created in the space where God creates all human beings, we were first spiritual. We are really just spiritual beings having a human experience. We're in a human vessel, but we are first spiritual. So that connection, you feel it. You understand it when you seek out us. And I'm not talking about religion. And I know if you've listened to my podcast, you know that I've talked a lot about bad religion. Bad religion has really destroyed people and destroyed relationships and the purpose of relationships to the point now where some people predict that people are just going to stop getting married. And it's going to, and I won't be around to see what's really going to happen, but people are no longer going to be in these relationships that can be so beautiful if we would take the time to try to be connected to the Most High God and let him guide us on what we should do. But bad religion, and I'll get into that a little later, that has created a lot of problems. But nevertheless, you have to build your relationship with the Most High God in order to love yourself. And so every day of your life, you must be in connect. You must be plugged up like this laptop is plugged up. You got to be talking to God. You got to be listening to God. You have to be meditating on God, spirit to spirit. What is it that you want me to do, God? Guide my path. Lead me to where I need to go and what I need to do. And he will. And it is spiritual, so it is something on the inside. And you will feel it. When you feel it, you will know. Those of us who know, we know. You're going to feel this, and you let that guide you. Now, how do you know? Because some people are very confused. Some people have never been taught this. And some people don't like this because this means that you are not connected to any kind of organized set rules and regulations and traditions and rituals. When you do this, you're doing this based on God. How do you know it's really God? And it's not you just going off on the deep end, or you having some kind of you're imagining something. You'll always know it's God because whatever you do is going to help you. It is not going to hurt, it's going to help. It's going to help you, and it's going to help everybody around you. Whenever you're trying to figure out, is this God or is this darkness? It's very simple. Is it hurting you? If it's hurting you and it's causing you pain, it's causing you to cry, it's causing you to end up in the doctor's office, it's causing people to have to bury you, it's not of God. It's that simple. And if you ever feel like you are in pain, you're hurting emotionally, and you are physically, hurting, and it's not of God. It's that simple. And God will tell you that in your spirit, in the spiritual realm, but the manifestation of that will always also be in the natural realm. It'll be in the physical. You should not be in a relationship where you are crying all the time and you are hurting because a person doesn't know how to do just the basic things to respect other human beings. When you have a strong sense of self-worth, you're not going to be able to take it. You're going to see it for what it is, and you simply won't take it. When you don't have that strong sense of self-worth and identity, you will. You might go along to get along. You might endure. And it's very interesting because a young lady in her video, she said something like, we have to stop being so forgiving. And that's where that bad religion comes in. You might think that, oh, I can't just, in this relationship, I'm supposed to forgive. I'm supposed to take. In other words, bad religion sometimes teaches people that they are supposed to be taking maltreatment and disrespect. Oh, just ignore the person. Oh, that's just how the person is. And that's how you end up dying, dying, dying. Every day on the news, there's somebody who thought they had to do that, and they are and they are at the cemetery right now. They're not on this side because they thought, oh, I had to forgive, I had to try to work it out. You can't. See, everybody has to work out their own relationship with God. You can pray for people, you can hope the best for people, you can really genuinely love people and decide I can't be with that person because that person is going to hurt me. They're going to disrespect me, or they're going to physically try to assault me. They cannot be with just me. So then by them having, outside relationships and sleeping with other men and women, they're putting my life at risk. I respect myself. I'm not going to be dealing with them. And you may not have anything against them. You're not mad at them. You just, you may be disappointed, but you're like, okay, I got to live and let go. And that's coming up soon. But when you have a strong sense of self-worth, you're just not going to let yourself be mistreated. Unfortunately, many people do not grow up in homes where they are taught self-love, and they're loved. First of all, they're loved. They feel loved by the people who are raising them, but they are taught self-love. This is something you must have direct instruction for. Someone has to teach you how to love yourself, respect yourself, how you should be treated, where love comes from. You have to be taught that. Some of the things that I went through in relationships, my daughter has never gone through because I was one of those people that said the buck is going to stop with me. I did not want my daughter. I knew that she, life is life, and God does not change life, he changes us. So I knew that there are certain things she had to go through in life, but at least I wanted to make sure she had direct instruction on what she should expect in a relationship. I not only taught her that, I modeled that for her. So growing up in a home where she was loved and she was affirmed, I modeled that for her. Other people modeled that for her. So she understood, okay, I'm supposed to be, God loves me. I was created by God. I'm supposed to have respect. I'm supposed to respect other people, that kind of thing. When you grow up in a home where you're abused, you're neglected, you are put down, you are mistreated, those kind of things, you don't get to develop that self-love and that respect and that sense of identity. And it's possible that you will then, because you're so used to accepting maltreatment, you'll just go into a relationship and that will be normal for you. But that is not normal to God, because God wants you to be loved the way he loves you. He wants you to be loved unconditionally. He wants you to be loved in spite of your flaws and your mistakes and your shortcomings. He wants you to be loved anyway. And that's hard for people to do. I get it. But if they won't do it, it's okay. You love yourself so that you're not so desperate to try to get somebody else to love you. And remember this before I change, go to number two. Number two, remember that you cannot make a person love you. You cannot make a person respect you. This is how people end up staying in very toxic relationships, and they end up getting hurt because this is what happens when you grow up in that kind of home. You learn how to navigate in bad relationships. You learn how to survive. So then you grow up, you get in another one, you think you can do the same thing. Well, the dimension of that relationship might be a little bit different. And so that person, the abuse usually escalates. And so you try to navigate with a person and you haven't been connected to them for long and they have no real emotional connection to you. And then the next thing your life is at risk and every day. And then you try to get out. And, there's a statistic and it says that when a woman then tries to get out of that kind of relationship, the likelihood that she would then be killed increases significantly. And we want to avoid that. I want you to not even having to have to deal with that at all, because that's very, very hard to deal with. So remember, if you focus on you right now, instead of trying to be in a relationship, and you focus on loving yourself and strengthening your relationship with God through prayer and meditation and through seeking out his wisdom and his guidance, that's when we'll get to number 2. You have peace about being single. So that's what I want you to do. Now, every single day, you gotta focus on the right people. I just had this conversation with my students. Sometimes we're on social media and we're so focused on other people and what's going on in the world, we're not developing ourselves. And you can only get strong with whatever you give attention to. That thing that you give attention to is the only thing that's going to be nurtured, that's going to get better. And to have elevated living, you have to focus on yourself. You have to develop yourself. It has to be intentional. You have to have that relationship with God that has to be nurtured. So I want to encourage you, every single day of your life, you need to turn off everything. You need to have quiet moments. You need to spend significant time in prayer, meaning communication with God, talking to God, listening to God. God and asking God, where do I go for mentorship? What do I read to build my relationship with you? What do I look at? Who do I listen to? And I'm telling you not what I think, but what I know. He will guide you. And once you become very, very strong in your own personal life, you're less likely to be able to be in an abusive relationship, because you're not going to be able to accept it and you're not even going to let that person in. It's like somebody can knock on my door. People do. I don't open the door. Sometimes we don't even answer the door because you're not coming in, because I don't know who you are. I don't know where you're from. You know what I'm saying? So once you get a strong sense of self-love and identity and worth, you're not even going to have to deal with some of these negative situations in relationships. All right, let's go to slide 2. Beautiful ladies, we're talking about 7 critical lessons for relationships, and number 2 is a really big one, and it is be at peace about being single. Desperation often leads to disease and death. I cannot tell you how many times I've seen these stories where people met somebody, they didn't know that person, they didn't get a chance to know that person. This is coming up too. And because they were so desperate for love, and they were looking for love in all the wrong places, that they hooked up with someone who was dangerous, just straight up dangerous, and they ended up losing their lives. It happens every day, all day. It happens many times a day. The first thing will happen when you begin to invest in yourself and you strengthen your relationship with God, you're going to understand that it may be a season that you should not be in a relationship at all. And here's where it gets really, really hard for people to accept. You may be single permanently. This is something that I don't think is talked about enough, that God has not called every single person to marry. And that's painful, because most of us grow up thinking that, especially if you're a woman, you're thinking that marriage is connected to your womanhood. You're supposed to be married, you're supposed to have children. And in an ideal world, and I do believe the original blueprint was for for women and men to marry and to have beautiful families, and that those families should have laughter and love. And because people have gotten away from God, that doesn't happen now. But you have to be careful because bad religion kind of gives this universal prescription that women should be married or people should be married and they should have families, they should have children. Well, yeah, you should if people are going to have the right mindset and be healthy. You can't be, you just can't just get married to get married. And let me tell you from experience, you do that, you will suffer, you will have pain, and you can avoid all that. So you have to first of all, once you get this will be easier for you. Once you get a strong sense of self-love and self-worth, you got to be at peace that I may be single. Because if you're desperate, again, if you think that love is coming from someone else, or you have pressure on you. Some people have pressure on them, like they need to be in a relationship. Every time they meet a family member, or they may see their friends getting married, or they may be looking at social media and they see people looking like they're happy, and a lot of those people are not really happy. That's just a fake image, and it's all fake and it's all deceptive. And so because nobody's gonna put their arguments on social media and all the bad stuff on social media. And so they may be desperate and they're thinking, oh, I gotta hook up with somebody, and that's how you get killed, because you don't know people. There was a story, and I did a podcast on this. There was a woman, and she went on one of these dating apps, and people are desperate. They're trying to find love. Love is not something you can find. You experience love only when you are connected to the Most High God, to the divine. That's the only time you're going to experience love. And the people that you're with, they must be connected. If they are not connected and you're not connected, you are experiencing something else. You're experiencing lust, you're experiencing obsession, you are experiencing attraction. There's so many imposters, but you're not really experiencing love unless you are connected to the source of love. I can't get power in my house unless I'm connected to power. If this laptop were not hooked up to the power source, and then the backup battery runs out of juice, it's shut off. And so love has been shut off to people because they're not connected. And I know that sounds so simplistic, but it's true. They may be religious. Let me just back up. There are a lot of religious people. I've met so many religious men and women, and they're really fake Christians and they're not real. But I've met so many people, they'll go to church and they'll talk about God, but they are so disconnected to God because they can't love. God is love. And when you're connected to God, you can love the way God loves, but they're not connected. And you can love people and not necessarily have a relationship with them, because relationship only works when both people, or all people involved, can love. It can't be, oh, one person is going to have love and respect and then the other person is not. And there's going to have to be a taker. And no, it's not going to be like that. Everybody's got to be connected, and everyone has to love the way God loves. And if it does not happen that way, then you're not going to you're going to be like that young lady crying. And so you got to be at peace, because unless there is, and I've talked about this and I've prayed about this quite a bit, unless there is some kind of revival in our community, there are going to be a lot more single people. And what I see, because people are still trying to hook up, they haven't totally given up the idea of they may have to be single. So they're still trying to hook themselves up. A lot of women are dying. Every day, thousands, when I say thousands, I mean thousands of women die in domestic situations. That meaning they're in a relationship with a man or a woman, but usually a man, and they are killed every day. Every single day, thousands around the world, in this country, every day. It happens because, again, you can't just love yourself. The other person has to love himself. It has to be all parties have a personal relationship with God. See, religion, the thing about religion that's very spooky is that religion actually justifies, some religions justify hurting women if they don't act a certain way, because in their religion you are not human first. You are a certain kind of human, and that certain kind of human, meaning woman or female, you're supposed to do certain things. When God made us, He made me first as a human. He made all of us first human. That means that all humans must be treated with respect and love. All humans need the same thing. We all need oxygen to breathe. We all need water to stay alive. We all need love, whether you're male or female, whether you're short or tall, whether you're fat or skinny, whether you're attractive or not attractive, whatever your religion is, whatever your skin color is, the hue of your skin, you need the same things. And so when you're in a relationship and you don't have that, it becomes very dangerous because one person will feel like, oh, I can do this, I can do that, and you can't do it because you're a woman, you can't do it. You're not supposed to do this, you're not supposed to do that. And so you have all these rules, and then when people can't keep up with the rules, they either make up rules and that's what they're doing, or they either totally forsake the rules, and that's where it gets dangerous as well. Here's what I want to say to you, and we're going to move on from this slide. There's a strong possibility that you're going to have to be single in order to have peace, in order to have safety. Your marital status, unlike what some people try to say, is not determined by you. It is determined by God. It's not like I can say, oh, I don't want to be single, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to choose the man I want. I want to be this. It's not like that. The only way you can be in a relationship is if that man appears. And you're not to look for love. You should not be looking for love. You should be seeking God's face. And if you think, and I say think, because you may not even, when you really know the truth, you may not even really want to be married. But let's say you think you want to be married. You should ask God, God, do you want me to be married? And you should ask God to prepare you for marriage, to give you the knowledge that you need, to make sure that that person is connected to Him and has what he needs. You have to know if God wants you to be married, because God did not make women to do the same thing. Some women He made to be doctors, to be lawyers, to be pilots. Like, you have to seek out God's face for what He has called you to do. What is your purpose? And it may involve, even if you are a pilot, or even if you are a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, it may involve you also being married and being a mother. That's possible. But you have to make sure that you know that that is God's will for your life. And again, if it's from God, you're not going to be crying like that. I'm not saying that everything is going to be easy, but your relationship shouldn't cause that much pain. You shouldn't be hurting. You should not be suffering. And that is something that can happen. You can actually be married and cry more than you did when you were single. You can actually be in a marriage and actually suffer. I'm talking about suffering, and I've seen it up close and personal. Suffer than you were if you would not be in that relationship. God does not want you to suffer. He does not want you to be crying. He does not want you to be beaten. He does not want you to be oppressed. That is not the will of God. That is from Satan. That is not, and that comes through, that is manifested through the people, men or women, but usually men. If you're in a relationship and you're being beaten and you're being oppressed, then that's not of God, because God might have. Here's a case in point. We were watching something yesterday, and this is a case that kind of made the national news. It's a case of domestic violence where the man ends up killing the mother and his former wife of his 3 sons. And what happened was the relationship started off fine. She decided, or she felt like she was supposed to go back to nursing school. So when she got married and she started having children, I guess she paused her goals of becoming a nurse. But at some point in the relationship, she decided she wanted to go back to nursing school. Well, the man didn't want her to do that. And the relationship became very toxic. It became very violent, and they separated. And so they were struggling for custody of the 3 sons. And this woman she was tough. She was fighting back, and she was prepared if she had to fight for herself and her children. But He ended up killing her after she had had surgery. She was weakened because she had some kind of surgery and she didn't have the same physical strength that she once had. He took advantage of that and he shot her like numerous times. And you know what it stemmed from? All because he couldn't love her the way God loved her. God loved her as a mother, as a husband, as a nurse. He wanted her not to be able to help other people, but God wanted her to go out and help other people. Every day you have stories like this. Somebody in a relationship doesn't want you to do something because they want to be your God. They don't have a relationship with God, but they want to be the God and they want to tell you what to do and what not to do. And usually it's not going to be something where you can have elevated living and you can flourish. They want to keep you down because for them, the relationship is about control, it's about power. And again, if you are a person and they don't have a strong sense of self-worth and identity, and they suffer with feelings of inadequacy, and they suffer with low self-esteem, in order to feel more esteemed or to feel more powerful, they will try to put you down. And they will, sometimes it's overt and it's direct, sometimes it's very subtle. You have people that, try to be manipulative and play games. And then if you really are connected to God, you're going to catch that, right? You're not going to let yourself be played like that. You might, one time they might get you, right? Okay, they say first time, shame on you. But if I let you keep manipulating me and doing little evil things, then it's on me. And that's what that young lady who was crying in that video that inspired this episode, that's what she didn't get. She made a choice to be with the person that hurt her. And you can't really be free and have the best life possible until you take full ownership and responsibility of your own life. You have to know that your life, the quality of your life, is determined by you and not what another person is doing, because you can't control that. Remember, I said earlier, you can't make somebody love you. You can't make somebody respect you. You can't make somebody want to just be with you and be monogamous. You can't make somebody, be responsible and pay the bill. You can't do that. You can only control your own life. Now, when you are with a person and that person is also connected to the source of power and the source of love, then you two can come together and grow together. That spiritual synergy is powerful. And you see that sometimes modeled with couples where they have grown together and it's beautiful. And that was God's original plan. But if the woman is connected to God and the man is not, it's not going to work. If the man is connected to God and the woman is not, you're going to have problems. And you got to understand, don't be so desperate to be in a relationship because, number one, a lot of times you think you want to be in one, then when you get in one, you're like, oh, no, this is not what I thought. So number two, be at peace. If you can't be single, this is the test, the litmus test. If you cannot just be single and be happy, you should not be in a relationship. Because if you're desperate to be in a relationship, that means that you might take things that you should not take. You might allow yourself, just for the sake of being with somebody, you might allow yourself to be mistreated and disrespected. And that is not God's will or plan for your life. Remember, desperation leads to disease and death. Get off of these apps, these dating apps. People are getting on there and they're never getting off because they're being killed. Get off of those dating apps today and date God, get to know God, talk to God, spend some time with God. Instead of trying to spend some time with somebody that you don't know, a stranger, spend some time talking and listening to God. Start this prayer with, God, I come to you with humility. I come to you with the understanding that I can't take my next breath without you, that you are above all things and everything, and that my life is not going to be complete. It is not going to be fulfilling without you, because I can do nothing. I can do nothing without you, Most High God. God, I humble myself. You got to be ready. You got to want this. You have to understand, do you want to just be with somebody, or do you want to be with somebody with peace and love? Make that decision now. But if you can't be single, again, you're really not ready for a relationship. I keep going, but let me stop. Here is one of the most life-saving lessons that I ever learned, and that is to get to know before getting involved. Um, I've seen stories where people meet a person and they kind of have this whirlwind romance, and without really knowing the person, they get involved, and then that's when they start to find out. Once they've already invested, it's like super gluing yourself, and then once you find out, okay, this person was convicted of murder, this person was convicted of rape, this person doesn't work, this person doesn't pay bills, this person doesn't know how to communicate, this person is not connected to God. You should already know the person before you get involved, or know as much as you can, because technically we never really fully know people, and we learn more, and because people are constantly evolving just as we are. But if you were to, number one, before you brought a person to your house, before you met a person out for dinner or to a movie, before, if you were just to talk to people, you would get a chance to know them, what they're thinking, how they think, what their values are. If you would just spend time talking to them in the safest way possible, and that is usually via phone. And now, if you want to see the person while you're talking to the person, we got the technology, we got FaceTime, Skype, you got those kind of situations, you got all Zoom, you got all this stuff. But you really need to get to know people before you get involved. And the more you talk to a person before you start having like face to face physical experiences with them, the more you will learn. And then you can decide, I don't think we share these values. Or we share a lot of values and we have a lot of things in common. And this might be a person that I could have a real relationship with. But the first thing you got to know is where that person is spiritually. Because again, without a relationship with God, a person cannot love you. Without a relationship with God, you cannot love another person, period. It's not going to happen. You may get something that looks like love. You may get quasi love. It's not going to last. Long lasting relationships, and I'm talking about what I know, I've been on the planet for over 60 years now, are relationships where two people, both people, are connected to the Most High God. They have a faith in something that is greater than themselves. They believe that God is real. They let God be a guide, not religion. They let God be a guide. And those two people, whenever they encounter different challenges, problems, because we're not perfect, and issues, they're able to work through them from the view and through God. They're able to do it. And so you got to get to know people. If people are not connected to God, they're not going to be able to talk to you. They're not going to be able to listen. They're not going to make the best decisions for themselves. They're not going to make best decisions for you in the relationship. It's just not going to work. So get to know before you meet a person out, before you, and especially before you invite them to your home. Sometimes you have single mothers and their children are being killed, their children are being raped, all these negative things, evil things, because they're letting this person in and they don't know this person. Get to know the person. And it doesn't take long. In fact, after about 4 or 5 conversations, you will probably know the value system of that man. It doesn't take a lot. And I'm not a person, I don't think you should just maybe do 21 questions with a person. Like you meet a person, you start asking a whole bunch of questions, and it's kind of like an interview. I think it should be organic, excuse me. And you're talking to this person and you're inquiring about different things. They may be asking some questions, but their value system, let me tell you, is going to come out. And when you ask specific questions, and we'll get into it, one of the slides is about knowing the expectations that a person has for you in a relationship. When you get into specifics, you can find out, you know what, I don't have this value. I can't do what this person is expecting me to do in this relationship. I don't like the things that this person likes. And and those core values, like for example, Of course, spirituality is number one. How the value for money, like how people handle their money, is a big thing. How people um, deal with intimacy, what are their expectations? Like if you don't share those values, it's not going to work. And again, everything should point north. If it's not connected to the Most High God, if they're not connected, it's not going to work, and you'll find out. I'm not saying that a person who has done something bad can't be reformed or redeemed. Unfortunately, that usually doesn't happen because they never go through the process of redemption. They never go through the process of healing. They never go through that. So they can't do it because it's not just, I want to do it. There is a real process and there are actions you have to take to be healed, to be redeemed, to improve your life, to elevate your way of living. There are real things you have to do. And so in this young lady's video, that was one of the things she was crying about. She was like, if you haven't got healing, a lot of people will say, well, I'm different. I want to try it again. But then when you ask them, okay, well, you're different and you've been healed. Now, who did you talk to? What did you read? What have you been watching? Who's your mentor? How did you do it? And they can't answer any of those questions, and so they're not redeemed. They may have the desire, you have to have more than that. And so get to know people, because if they have killed before, they're probably going to kill again. Not necessarily all 100% of the time, but probably 99% of the time it's going to happen. If they've had problems with managing their anger in the past, they're probably going to have problems continuing to manage it. And again, if they have not gone through the actions, they may have the desire to be better, but they have not taken the time and the effort to go through with the process. They're going to still have problems managing their anger. And they're going, and people who have these problems, they hurt the people who are closest to them. So you have to make a decision. Do I want to be in this relationship or not? Preferably you will say no. And it doesn't mean that that person is a bad person. It doesn't mean that that person is necessarily wrong in some of the things that you don't agree with. It just means that you have a certain expectation for yourself about how you want to live, how you want to be treated, what you want to do, and they don't meet it. And it's okay. There is somebody for everybody. And what you have to do is you have to pray that they will find that person that can meet their expectation. And they are where they are. Because one thing I know is when there are too many differences in a relationship, like value systems and what people expect, there are going to be clashes. That relationship is going to be toxic and disastrous. It's not going to work. So if you get to know people and you know what their expectations are and you know what their value system is up front, you can avoid spending a whole bunch of time with them, getting yourself involved, and you may not be able to get out. One of the things that I really had to deal with is a lot of regret, because this person and I, we never went out. The person never asked me out on a date. They never, we weren't really dating per se, but we would talk a lot and I would get to know him. And what I did was I just kept talking to him and I wasn't asking the right questions. I wasn't understanding that this person really needed a therapist, and they kind of used me as a therapist, but they were not interested in me, or they did not show any interest in me, like to be in a serious relationship. And I regretted wasting all my time, because I didn't get paid for that. I didn't get paid for those sessions. And then when I really started asking the right questions, I discovered that this person and I, we have absolutely nothing in common. We don't share any values about anything, about money, about raising children, about life, or anything. And I really went through something, because when it hit me how much time I had wasted, I was so angry at myself. It wasn't even about the guy. It was like I was so angry at myself, because I could have just ended that a long time ago. But I learned a lot from that. And you don't have time to waste. Let me just say this. Life is short and people are getting up out of here. If you got anything, you don't have time to waste. So what you need to do and what you need to understand is when you talk to people and they reveal that this is what they prefer when it comes to intimacy, or this is how they handle money, or this is how they see money, are they looking at your money, they want your house or whatever, you got to just say, you know what, we don't share the same values. Peace and blessings. Love and live and let go. And you can love them, you can respect them, but it's not going to work in terms of relationship. And you don't have time to waste time, and you don't need to be involved with somebody that is never going to lead to a relationship, because while you're dealing with this person that is never going to lead to a relationship with, you're missing out maybe on an opportunity for someone who does, share your values, and who does want to be committed to you. And that's the part you got to understand. So get to know before you get involved. Another thing that's so amazing is I watch these crime shows, and people will get on a dating app. They'll meet a perfect stranger. They won't do any investigation. They will get involved, and they will end up getting hurt or killed. And all they had to do was a simple Google search or background. So now you can get people's background information. They could have found out that that person was a rapist, that person was a killer, and then they could have said, you know what, I don't think so. But instead, they use all their time on social media, I guess looking at people's pictures, talking about people liking and commenting, when you got to do research. And basic research will reveal a person's history. So if you think that this person, is somebody that you might want to get into a serious relationship with, do a background search. You can ask some questions. You can, most people will reveal certain things up front, but if they got a criminal record, you can find that out easily now. You can find out their history. Just get to know before you get involved. It'll save your life. Lesson number 4 is so simple, but so many of us miss it. I know I did. And that is, you need to use your eyes and your head more than your ears. They say that women are stimulated by what they hear. A man can be talking to you and saying certain things, and he can be seeming like he's interested or he's kind or he could say the right things. But you got to look at what I say, look at what the man is doing. As humans, let me go back. Psychologists say that humans have unpredictable behavior, that our behavior is unpredictable. But the way that you get an idea of a person's behavior is based on what they have already done. So their history reveals what they're going to do in the present and the future, because we are creatures of habits. So we do the same thing over and over again most of the time. So if you want to know how a person is going to treat you, what it would be like to be in a close relationship with them, all you got to do is open your eyes and start thinking about it. How long has this person been on a job? Do they have problems keeping steady employment? Has this person what is this person saying? How does this person interact with other people? What is the relationship like with his family members, with his mother, with his father, with his siblings, with any friends that he has? What is he like on his job? You're going to know if you're paying attention, if you're looking at that person's behavior, you're looking and you're thinking, and you're not just listening to someone telling you something that they think you want to hear, you can avoid so much pain, so much frustration. You can avoid a hospital visit. You can avoid, having to be in pain because they don't put something in your cereal. Like, you could avoid physical and emotional and mental pain by looking at what they've done, because they're going to show you. A person cannot hide who they are but for so long, and it's going to come out through their actions. So it's about you looking at what do they do. And again, if you use number 3, if you get to know before you get involved, you will see what a person is going to do in the relationship with you. If they have been disrespectful to other people, if they've had a hard time with stability and working if they don't believe in God before, then, all of that stuff. Use your eyes. Look at what they're doing. Now, there's a little secret, and I don't know if I want to share this with you, but I always taught my daughter that look at how a man drives. Because how a man drives is a big indicator of how he will be in a relationship, in some parts of that relationship. People who honk in the horn, screaming at the other drivers, driving real fast, impatient, trying to speed, going nowhere. What you going fast for? Why you in a hurry? Pay attention to that, because usually those are the people that you don't want to be in a relationship with. If they've been impatient with everybody else, they're going to be impatient with you. If they're a person that they have a short fuse and they go off on everybody else, they're probably going to go off on you. If they have unresolved issues with people in their family, especially the mother or father, they are going to take out those unresolved issues on you. I'm going to keep saying this. You cannot have a relationship that is healthy, that is beautiful, without having a relationship with God. If that person, I'm not talking about a man who goes to church, because I know men that go to church and they are evil, okay? They are wicked. I'm talking about a man who understands that he can't take his next breath without God, and he fears God, and he wants to be pleasing to God, and he wants to be honorable to God, and he's seeking out a relationship with God. See, I'm going to use the same Bible that these super religious people use. Before they had organized religion, there are people in the Bible. Abraham is one of them. Abraham just talked to God. Before they had like church and they had all these rituals and rules. Abraham knew that there was something greater than humanity. The evidence that from the beginning of time, this is millions of years, 1,000 years before the Bible was even written, humans knew there's something greater than us. There is something bigger than we are. We didn't make the moon, we didn't make the stars, we didn't make the planets, we didn't make the sun. And they had different names for that God, but they knew that there was something there. Well, Abraham, his story is recorded. He would talk to God. You got to have a man like Abraham who knew that there was something greater than humanity, that God was real, and he communicated with that God, and he got guidance from that God. And yes, Abraham was not perfect. Abraham made some bad mistakes, like all humans do. But you need someone with a relationship. It's not going to work if he doesn't have that. Period. Look at what he has done with his life. Look at what he has done. If I meet a person, I've known different people, and some people that I've known, they have never changed in 30 years, in 40 years. They're the same. They do the same exact things they did 40 years ago. They did 30. You meet a man, you've known a man for a long time, and he never changed, like he never grew, he never elevated, like he never wanted to go back to school, never want to do anything to better himself and set a good example for his family or son or daughter. What? Never. No. That man, I'm not saying that's a bad man. I'm not saying that the man is wrong for doing that. What I'm saying is that says a lot about how he's going to be in a relationship. Because just like I told you earlier, the lady wanted to go back to nursing school. Well, if you with somebody and they never want to grow and they never want to progress, then they're not going to get you trying to progress and grow. I want to live the best life I can possibly live. And that means that I'm never stagnant. I always want to try to elevate my living, my thinking. I want to try to get better. And even if I think I'm good, I want to get better, right? So, but if you with somebody and that's not what they believe in and that's what they want, then they're not going to understand you trying to do it. And in some cases, and in most cases, they're going to try to stop you from doing it. And they're not going to be able to handle you, getting better, because they're not interested. So use your eyes, pay attention to what people do, and not more than what they say, but look at what they're doing. And here's what people miss. It's not what they're doing to you, it's what they're doing to themselves. One of the things I taught my daughter was I said, you pay attention to how a man is invested in himself. Has he tried to be a better human being? Has he gone back to school? Has he tried to open a bit? Like, what is he doing for himself? Because if a person can't do it for himself, he's definitely not going to do it for you. Has he tried to budget his money for himself? Forget trying to do it for anybody else. Has he done it for himself? And if the answer is no, it's very unlikely that he's going to be a good person for you. Not saying he's a bad person. I want to emphasize that. Not saying that if you don't go back to school, if you don't try to speak better or do better or think, if you don't try, I'm not saying you're wrong or you're not a good person. What I'm saying is that if you desire that as a woman and you hook up with somebody and they don't want that, then they're not going to understand you trying to do it. So use your eyes, look at how he's treated himself, look at how he's treated others, and then that's going to be how he's treated you. Just remember that. Number 5 is a game changer. It's a matter of life and death. And this is what gets a lot of people in trouble, and that is when they ignore the warning signs and red flags. There was a show that I used to watch that we watched. We had HBO for a while, and we watched a show called Evil Lives Here. And every time I watched that show, an episode, that night I would just be in full prayer mode because I would be thanking God for my life because I realized how close I came to death in certain situations because most of the stories were very similar, and I saw that I was with and I was in a relationship where the killers were doing the same thing that I saw up close and personal, and I ignored the red flags, so I know that I am a person who God just showered his grace upon. I'm here because of grace and mercy and nothing else. People will start to show you signs that they are deviant, that they are wicked, that they're evil, and you can ignore them. And here's a big one because I missed this. If you're with a person and you start getting sick all the time, that's probably not you just getting the flu. That's probably not you just having some kind of illness. That's them doing something to you, putting something in your cereal, putting something in your food. Don't ignore those kind of signs. Like if you never really had any health problem and all of a sudden you start eating something and every time you eat it, you bent over, you're in the bathroom and you're in excruciating pain. And it's notice that when you're around that person that happens, that's a red flag. Um, you wore contacts all your life, and then all of a sudden you're around that person and you get an eye infection, your contacts acting crazy, and your eyes starting to hurt. Warning signs. People start having certain demands or wanting certain things from you that are unnatural. God made your body. Everything on your body has a purpose, has a function. But this person wants to engage in practices that go against what your body parts, what you're supposed to do with your body. Warning sign. Danger is lurking. And again, I want to emphasize this. You can't change anybody else. You can't, they trying to convince you to engage in the perversion. You can't convince them that they're wicked. You can't convince them that this is wrong. This is not God's way. Because they're actually their mind is so distorted and so gone that they actually believe that it's okay by God for them to engage in a practice that may give them pleasure, but will send you to the hospital, will have you having to, be in the doctor's office and eventually probably dying. You cannot change that person, that reprobate mind. Now Jesus can, the Holy Spirit can, but you can't. So don't ignore red flags if you, again, number one, if you're around a person and you're getting sick and you're hurting, you don't know why you're getting headaches, you don't know why you're having food poisoning, you don't know why you're sick all the time, that's a sign, that's a warning sign. If you're with a person and they start wanting you to practice or engage in things that you know are unnatural or go against what God has made your body for, that's a red flag. When they themselves are, and this is something that, from Evil Lives here happening a lot, people start, watching certain things and they get fixated on watching these evil things, this demonic, again, perverted stuff, deviant stuff, and they're watching it all the time to the point where they staying up all night watching it. So the next morning they're grumpy, they're angry, they really can't keep a job because you can't function. You don't go to sleep at night and you don't get rest. You can't even function at your best. You can't be your best self. And then we are what we put in us. So if you're with a person and all they want to do from the time they wake up to the time they go to bed is watch perversion and watch filth, they're putting that in them, and that's the only thing that can come out. So their expectations of you are going to be connected to that because that's all that's in them. They don't read anything that's positive. They're not watching anything that's positive. They're not listening to anything that's positive. You can't tell them anything is positive. You can try to tell them something that is positive, that is righteous. They're going to reject it because they have decided to let darkness rule them. And again, you don't have to hate this person. You don't have to really talk about this person. You can still love this person. But let me tell you what I know, not what I think. If you don't get out and you don't get away, you are risking your life. Every time I watch that show, I was like, oh my goodness, God. I would be so emotional because I realized, God, you saved my life. I would see the behavior of these men that had killed, and I was like, the person did the same thing. And they might not have known themselves how deviant they were because sometimes you get so dark, you don't even know you're there. Don't ignore those signs. This is how women get killed every single day. Every day. It's so disheartening. The last week, if you and I watched, I looked at the news and there were probably about maybe 7 cases of women and their children being killed in these situations. And there were signs, they were red flags. Unfortunately, they say that when you try to get out of these kind of situations, that's where the likelihood that you will be hurt or killed increases. And so you have to prepare for that. I mentioned in one of my episodes, I had one of my former students. She posted something on Facebook about how I guess she had been in a relationship with this guy, and then he's kind of stalked her, and then for a while, I guess he laid low, or she laid low, whatever, I don't know. But then she had recently posted that she saw him around, and she hadn't seen him in 4 years. And she was, making it known publicly that if something happened to her, it would be him. Now, I guess that's okay. I don't know if posting that publicly would make things better or worse. I will say I do believe in paperwork and pistols. So I do believe that yes, you go if you feel like it's that bad, you go file and get a restraining order, but you also have to get your weapon. You also have to try to protect yourself. These people, darkness is powerful and evil, but you do need to come up with a plan that if this person were to get closer to me, could I stop this person from hurting me? And you can't walk around in fear. You have to really take real action. But if you ignore what I'm saying is that if you ignore the warning signs, the violence, the evil only escalates. Sometimes you can separate, like you got the situation in Ohio where the man, according to the lady before she died, before she was killed, she shared with her family that her husband, her ex-husband, the one that who was allegedly the killer, had threatened her, was emotionally abusive, had threatened bodily harm. Now, mind you, they had been divorced for 5 years. She had gone on and she had married somebody else. And no, it might have been longer than 5 years. She had been married for 5 years, so they had been separated for a longer time. This man just continued to stalk her and said she was always going to be his wife, is what he was saying. So in that case, now he got them, broke into the house, and he studied them while they were asleep. You got a lot of cases like that. So what you need to do is you need to be prepared. This is a very tough conversation. You need to ask God, because that's a prayer. God, give me the strength. If I don't want to I don't want to have to fight somebody or shoot somebody or stab, but God, give me the strength, because I want to live. If I have grandchildren, I want to be here for them. You have to, you understand, if you ignore the red flags, that's where you're going to be, probably for the rest of your life, maybe. I pray, you pray for people. You never stop praying for people. I have done it where I prayed and then I stopped praying. No, you have to keep praying for people to be healed. You have to pray for people who have these distorted, this distorted thinking. There's a powerful scripture, I think it's Isaiah like 54, 55 or something. It's a scripture where the prophet is talking to the people and he says, let the wicked man, stop doing what he's doing. Like, you can pray, but you also have to pray. Faith without work, you got to prepare. You have to pray and prepare, because there's some people, they don't get it. It's like they do all this evil towards you. They've done every evil thing almost possible they could do, and then they don't seem to understand why you don't want to be with them, why you can't be around them. You might have wanted to be around them, right? But you can't, because they will end up putting something in your food. They want to engage in things that are painful to you, while they may feel good, I guess, but they would be painful to you and cause you to have health problems and end up in the hospital and die. They want to hurt you. They want to be with you, but then they want to also sleep with other men and women. It's like, well, you wonder, like, what's wrong? But because, again, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of this podcast. If a man, I'm going to say this 5 times, if a man is not connected to the Most High God, he is not going to love you. He can't. If a man is not connected to the source of love, he is incapable of loving you. Somewhere in his mind, he may want to, but he can't. The only way that a man can be honorable and be righteous and be respectful and get the blessing of that by loving you the right way is when he is fully committed to the Most High God. We cannot take our next breath I can't take my next breath without God allowing this human suit that he gave me, because we are spiritual beings. And so we are connected to him, spirit to spirit. We're only we're having a human experience, but we are spiritual. So God can say, it is time for me to bring back the soul, the spirit that I have created. When a man understands that, when he understands that his life is blessed, when he will love the way God loves, when he will honor women instead of beating them down and mistreating them, when he will respect a woman, where he would cherish a woman instead of putting poison in her cereal, when he would do that God will bless him abundantly. I just had this conversation with my daughter, because I got to do another episode on this. I won't say the person's name, but I was looking at a podcast, and there was this particular entertainer on a talk show, like a podcast, and he was telling his story. And he reminded me again of something that I learned a long time ago, that when a man gets up in the morning and he's not just focused on himself and pleasing his flesh, and his goal is to love and to help people and to help his family and to help people around him, God will bless that man in ways he could never imagine or think. There are some men, and they're not perfect, and nobody is perfect. They are so blessed. They become rich. They become powerful in the sense that they get up in the morning and they doing it not for them. They doing it also for their families. They take care of their families. And then when you know a man, and the only thing they thought of from the time they woke up to the time they went to bed is perversion and deviation. Like, that's all they were focused on. They never thought about doing anything for anybody but gratifying their flesh. And you wonder why they look the way they do and why they in the situation they're in. You don't have to wonder anymore, because there's a blessing that goes on a man's life when he will get up and want to work for his family and show love. And some of these men, and they're high profile men, and we've seen them in the media, and we've seen their flaws and we've seen their falls, but they are still so blessed. And you know why? And I got it now. And this guy was a reminder. I won't say his name. It was a reminder because he got up every morning to work for his family. He takes care of his mother. He took care of his children. He takes care of his grandchildren. He helps people in his profession. And yet, you know, when you contrast that to a low life, this person that just, and you just don't like, wow. And then this is what gets you when you think about this person. They had so much potential. Like they really could have been a multimillionaire. They could have been somebody that children wrote about and studied in school because they became an inventor. They had all this potential that God gave them, but they chose to squander it because the only thing they let Satan got in. The only thing they could think about was their flesh. They never tried to fight it. And when you tried to tell them, it's like, okay, I don't want to hear you. But yet they want to misuse you and abuse you, but they don't want to, So that's what I'm saying. Don't ignore those red flags because you're going to be miserable. That young lady, my heart grieved that she was crying. She said that normally she didn't post content like what she was posting when she was crying and she was trying to talk to men. You can only change yourself. It's not about what other people do. It's about how you respond. And if you ignore the warning signs, and they're going to be there, if you ignore the red flags, you are going to have pain. Remember, God doesn't want you to be hurting. Anytime you want to know if it's God, if it's Satan, it's very simple. Is it hurting you? Are you getting sick all the time? Are you miserable? Are you, it's a point where one person walked in the house and said, why does it feel dark in here? Yeah, because when you around a dark person, and they just filled with darkness. They not no, no there's no they're never thinking about anything good. They've never tried. And then here's the thing, and my heart grieves for this. I get it. People don't want to suffer, but then they don't want to do the work to heal because it does take work. I get that. It does take work. But let me tell you what the Most High God will do. When you really understand who you are and who He is, you want to heal. You want to do right. You want to be honorable. And you go to Him and you seek His face and you humble yourself and you cry out, God will answer you. And you can go from that darkness to developing as a human being, as a better human being. But you can't do it without God. And so don't ignore those warning signs. If you don't plan on your family having to bury you, if you don't plan on having to end up in the emergency room, if you don't plan on if you do get out of the relationship, you got nightmares for the rest of your life. You wake up in the middle of the night and you're crying and you're praying because you remember how God saved your life, or you're having nightmares, or now you're seeing, okay, that's why I was sick. Oh, that's why I was vomiting. That's why I was in the bathroom in excruciating pain. And you're thinking about you were with the person and all they were perverted and just, and it's bad. When you see those warning signs, you better act. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, how to do it. We're almost at the end, beautiful people. This episode is long. But number 6 is I want you to be very clear about what the expectations and goals are for a relationship. You can't just mindlessly get with a person and not have clear expectations on what you and this person are going to do. And boy, if I had gotten this would save so many people from getting married to the wrong person, or this would save marriages. This would help people be more aware of what it takes. When you get in a relationship, people have expectations. They have expectations for you in terms of finances, day-to-day routines, intimacy, children. Like, they have expectations. And if you know what they are, then you will know whether or not you can meet the expectation or you can't. It's just that simple. I remember I asked this dude because he he really just didn't want to be single. He didn't necessarily want to be married, but I don't think he really wanted to be single. And it just seemed like he was just kind of looking for somebody to really sort of be like a mom to him. He really didn't want a woman. He wanted a person that he could kind of lean on to kind of help take care of him. He was what they call a hobosexual. And so, but I asked him a question, a very simple question about his expectations for one dimension of his life because he didn't seem to have a type. And most men have a type. Like if you chose somebody that is 5'2" and weighs 110 pounds, it's hard for me to believe that you would be attracted to somebody who may be that height but not be twice that size or something. Like why would you choose skinny women all your life, but then you're trying to get with a big woman now? Well, I don't believe that, people have a preference, and that's okay. They don't want somebody big. I get it, and I totally understand it. So I asked him a question about some things about preferences, and I remember him saying, oh, he didn't have any, blah, blah, blah. But there was one particular thing I asked him. I said, what do you prefer? And he revealed it. I said, what is something you can't stand? And he revealed it. I said, you just know you can't do this. Physically, you wouldn't be able to stand it. When he shared those things, I realized that I would never be what he expected. He might not have known when I was asking him these questions, he might not have known that how it was going to impact me. But once I clearly knew that he expected this thing, for this dimension of his life, and this was one thing that he just couldn't stand physically, and I didn't meet what he wanted, I was able to totally remove myself from the idea of we could get together because he's going to always have that preference. And he was very candid. He didn't know why I was asking. You got to know the expectations. If a person expects you to go to work and then come home and then cook and then help the children with the homework and then still be able to serve their needs, their intimacy needs, you got to know that up front because you can avoid, if you know you can't do that. Now some women might want to do it, but if you know you can't do it, you're able to say, I don't think so, before you get involved and you get yourself all entangled. And now you're facing a bit of divorce. You're facing, frustration because, and you can't meet all the needs and the person got to get them outside of the marriage. It causes so many problems. But if you know up front, hey, I want you to go to work for 9 hours, 8 hours, because you got to count the time you're on the road. I still expect you to cook. I still expect you to help the kids with the homework. I still expect you to be able to take care of my needs. If you know that that's the expectation, then you can make a decision. Do I want to do this or not? You got to find out what the expectations are when it comes to money. Some people just kind of get money and they just kind of do whatever they want with it. If you're a person and you get your money and you do a budget and you save a certain amount and you give a certain amount and you pay your bills on time and you want to have good credit because you may want to, travel or whatever you want to do or buy another house, you have to make sure that you know what that person's expectations are for money. Are they going to pay that? Are they going to pay their bills? Can they do a budget with you? Can you even talk about money with them? Do they save or do they want you to put their money with their money? Can you have separate bank accounts? You gotta get those things up front because you can avoid a situation where you go to the bank and all your money has been taken. It happens every day. Or you get to the house and all the furniture is gone because the expectation was, if we break up, I'm taking all this stuff. Or we put the money together. I can just take all the money if I want to go buy something. I want to go buy a new fishing pole. I want to buy a new car. And the expectation is I don't have to have a conversation with you. You gotta, and I want to emphasize, I'm not saying the person is bad. I'm not saying the person is wrong. You gotta know what the expectation is. Because what if your expectation is, if you're gonna make a big purchase, we need to talk about it together. We're gonna keep our money separate. And that all depends on different factors. Like I'm 60 something years old. I'm not going to marry again. But let's just say there are people my age and older who marry. Let's say I have a friend and let's say she's 62 and she meets a guy and he's 65. Well, they have built up independent wealth that she has her own house, she has her own pension or whatever, he has his own stuff. What are the expectations for that? Because now you both have your own independent money and y'all probably have children. Are you gonna, and when you marry, your spouse owns everything. It doesn't go to your children, it doesn't go to your parents, it doesn't go to your siblings, it goes to your spouse. So what are the expectations? Because if that person is expecting you to, put your money together, or let's say y'all both have a house and they're expecting to move in with you, or they're expecting to, they're saying like your house is my house, that kind of thing. You got to know those expectations. Again, the person doesn't have to be wrong or bad, but you got to know them so that you'll know, can I handle this or not? You say, I don't think I want to do that because I know if I marry you, you're right. My house will be your house, and I want to leave my house to my child. I want to give my child a legacy, and I can't ensure you will do that, so I have to do it. So we just, we'll pass on that, Or again, people have different expectations in the bedroom. You got to make sure that you can do what they expect because this is what's going to happen. If they have an expectation and they're being very honest and you can't meet it, they're going to get it. And it's going to be outside of the relationship. And you put your life at risk when a person does that. Now, if they want to do that, they want to have, they call it polygamy or polyamorous relationships. It's really not polyamorous, but if a person believes they should have outside relationships or they should have multiple partners at one time, that's on them, but you got to know that that's what they expect, so you don't get involved. Because you might not think, well, if they're sleeping with other men and women and then they sleep with me, I could be at risk, a higher risk for disease and death, and I want to pass. You got to get that expectation first, because if you're not able to meet whatever desire they really have, you said, I don't do that, my body's not for that, I can't do that, period. I don't think God wants me to do that. But they want that, and you don't do it, they're going to get it. Trust and believe, they're going to go out there and get it. And so what you have to do is you have to know that and not get involved. Once I find out, I remember asking a guy, and he just straight up told me. He said, this is what I prefer. And I knew I couldn't do it. So guess what? Or in a relationship and somebody's trying to get you to do something that you think is unnatural. You think that your body is not made for that, and God does not want you to engage in that. You can't convince them that they're sick or perverted because they believe that they're not, right? So you have to get out of that relationship, because what's going to happen is they're either going to keep trying to pressure you and bother you, and then just knowing that they want that is disturbing to you. So now you can no longer feel for them in a certain way. But then you know that if you can't give it, they're going to get it, because nothing is going to stop them from wanting that. And that's all they've ever wanted in their whole life. So what you got to do is you got to get out. You got to get out once you know the expectation. But what if you knew that up front? You could avoid all the pain and suffering and anguish that goes with having to get out of a relationship, or you've wasted your time, or go through a divorce. And that's happening a lot too. In Atlanta is one of those places where you have a very high bisexual population. Some people are open with that and some people are not. So you have a lot of women, they're finding out that their husbands are involved with other men. And they find this out not after the person has gotten out of the relationship, while they're still in the relationship. Because their husbands had an appetite for something that they're not willing to do. And so they don't want to go to the doctor. They don't want to die. They don't want to get cancer from this stuff. So guess what? The man still wants it, and he can find it in Atlanta. And then now they find themselves in a situation where they've got to get divorced. And usually it's contentious and it's negative, But that could have been avoided if you had already known, okay, oh, this person, this is something that he desires. And I know that I'm not going to do it. So I might as well not even get involved in the first place. That's what you got to know up front. You got to talk. I don't know. When people get married, I've always wondered, what do counselors tell them? Because some pastors don't even marry people unless they get counseling. I've always wondered, like during the counseling, what are they talking about? Because you got to be talking about how we're going to handle this money. What are your expectations for me in terms of intimacy? What are your expectations about raising children? What are the expectations about work? Some people are still having to work from sun up to sundown, but then when they come home, they still the expectation that they're supposed to do everything. And I've seen that happen where women, they didn't get out of the relationship, but they resented the man because they had to do everything, even though they were married and they had a husband. They were the only ones handling the domestic responsibilities of the relationship. And after a while, that begins to tear that person down. And one person in particular, I'm thinking about, they're no longer with us. They're no longer on this side. Because that's what it'll do. It'll tear you down. Even if that person is paying all the bills, if you're doing every single thing by yourself, and then you living with the person and you saying, well, they're not helping with this, and they don't feel like they should, you could have avoided all that pain, and now you're gone. If you had just known up front, that was their expectation. And if you had known, I don't want to be in a relationship where I'm doing everything domestic and they're doing nothing. I don't want that. You could have avoided the pain, the suffering, and the death, maybe. And it's heartbreaking and it's painful. But when whoever, if you're listening to this and you counsel couples, please ask people, what do they expect? As I mentioned before, I am more of a what they call a seasoned saint. And even though I'm not going to ever marry again, for those people who are my age or older, 60 or older, you got to ask, what are the expectations for your children? Because it's a very strong possibility that if you married at an age like 60 or higher, or 50 or higher, people are going to have children. What are the expectations? You're going to leave them something, because everything goes to the spouse. It doesn't matter if you, even if you do a will, even if you try to put your child's name on something, so, like an IRA, you could try to put your child's name on it, it automatically goes to the spouse. It does not go to the child. Even if you try to put the child as a beneficiary, it doesn't. That's how serious this thing is. So what are the expectations? And if the expectations are that it's going to go to your spouse and not your children, you got to decide, do I want to do that? Do I want to leave my money in my house and everything I work for to somebody that I've only known for 5 years versus my child that I've known for 40 years? Is that really what I want to do? And so you got to decide that up front. People got to get these expectations. And if you do that, you can avoid the tears, the pain, the suffering, the loss, so much of that. And your death can be avoided. Really, it could. So if you and that person were able to get through all the other things, and you decided that you and this person were thinking about a commitment, before you fully commit, you and that person need to sit down and say, here are the expectations for this relationship when it comes to money, when it comes to intimacy, when it comes to day-to-day routines, when it comes to children, and even maybe with politics, when it comes to social media. I sometimes see people post their spouses, and sometimes their spouses look so uncomfortable, like they don't want to be posted. And then I've seen it where, in one particular case, is one lady I knew, she kept posting about her husband now and then, but then she stopped, and I believe that her husband probably said, "Look, you can be on social media, on Facebook, but I don't want to be on it." I can kind of see that happening. What are those expectations? Because I know I wouldn't want to be posted. I wouldn't want to post somebody. You gotta ask yourself and ask that person, what is it that they want? And then what are the goals? Um, I'm a very ambitious person. Like there are so many things I want to do, so many goals I have for my life, because I've wasted a lot of time. And I told you, I believe in regret. I have regret. I have regret that I wasted all that time and I invested a lot of my time and energy, emotional energy and spiritual energy into dead things. And I just in dead situations, and I do regret that. I do. And I pray for God's forgiveness. And I pray that God will give me that time back. So for me, one of my goals, I would have to know up front because I have many goals. Is that person ambitious? Do they want to, do they want to start a business? What are their goals? And when a man says that he doesn't have any goals and he doesn't know what he wants to do, I already know that that person would not be the best person for me. Because again, if you believe that God, wants you to achieve certain things and they don't want that, it's hard for them to understand you doing it. Like if a person doesn't want it for himself, it's hard for them to understand you wanting to do it. Going back to the case, now that's just one case, but this happens a lot. The man killed, the relationship broke down because she simply wanted to go back to nursing school. And he didn't want her to go. And he thought she shouldn't go, because he just wanted her to take care of the kids, or he didn't think she could take care of the children and manage going to nursing school. But see, when you're not God, you don't know what a person can do. And when you're not connected to God, you don't believe that you can do a lot. When you connect to God, you believe you can do all things according to his riches and glory. You can do all things beyond your imagination, beyond what you can think. It always goes back to that connection, and those expectations and those goals go back to the connection with God. If they don't have the connection, they're not going to have the right goals and right expectations. So get that up, straightened out up front. Divorce is a very painful thing, even if you think you need it, even if it's the best thing for your situation. It's a very painful thing to go through, trust me. And you could avoid that pain if you simply had said, what are the expectations for me day to day? What are the expectations of me for intimacy? What are the expectations for me financially? You could already say, this ain't gonna work. What are the goals? I want to do A, B, C, D, E. I want to open a business. I want to travel here. That person doesn't want to do anything but sit up all night and just watch filth and perversion. So it's not going to work. And all the pain and the tears and the hope, all that didn't have to be lost. If you gotten those expectations clear at first, you could have said, I love you and I wish you the best, but I know we wouldn't work together. Again, I want to emphasize something because I had to work through this. You don't have to necessarily see a person as wrong or bad, and you don't have to. The one thing you don't want to do is try to convince the person to see things your way and do things your way. Because once a person gets sort of settled with that wickedness or that darkness, and they don't even see it as dark or wicked, and they just totally comfortable with whatever they're doing, you have to let them go. And you have to let them go with love, not with resentment or bitterness, even if they've done some evil towards you, because holding on to that anger and that resentment is like somebody having a ball of fire in their hand. What's going to happen to that person's hand? It's going to burn up. And that fire is going to spread. And it's going to destroy you. And that's what can happen. So when I say let people go, you have to let them go with love. You have to let them go with grace and forgiveness. Sometimes that's hard. I had a very good conversation with my beloved principal recently, and she really, she's a woman of God, and we were having a spiritual conversation. And she just reminded me to revisit forgiveness again. Like the conversation made me really go back and say, you know what, have I really forgiven? Or am I still really praying for that person like I should? Am I still having the right feelings? And it doesn't matter what that person did. And it doesn't matter how messed up you think the person is. You still want to have grace and compassion because that's what God has for us. And so she really challenged me. And just because a person does not meet your expectations or you don't meet theirs, it doesn't mean that either of you is wrong. What it simply means that that relationship will probably not work. And that rather than you hooking up and then have to try to unhook yourself and superglue yourself together, and then you cannot unsuperglue yourself, you should not be in that relationship. And you should live and let go and love and let God. And that's what I want to emphasize. We got one more lesson. This is a long one. This is our final lesson, number 7. And I know this episode is really long. And I want to thank you and thank God if you are still listening to the. Y'all, I had some stuff fall in the house. I'll get it up later. But I want to thank you for listening. And I pray that this is a blessing to you. And this is the last lesson. And this is the most powerful one. You have to be willing to let go and let God. And for relationships, if a relationship becomes toxic and or dangerous, and it doesn't matter who it is. Now, for the most part, when I first started this episode, I was talking about the young lady crying, and she was lamenting her pain and frustration with being in a relationship. And she addressed her message to men, and she was basically saying, if you cannot treat a woman right, if you're not healed, leave women alone. But then the guy who had posted her message was basically reversing it and saying, you need to leave these men alone. You don't need to be involved with a man. And, if you know you can't handle ABC, you can avoid this. Basically, he was saying you could avoid this. And sometimes you can't. Sometimes it looks like all the stars are aligned and everything is perfect and everything is fine. And you hook up with the person. But then it can change. And going back to that show, Evil Lives Here, I saw that happen a couple of times where at first the couple seemed to have a healthy relationship. It seemed to be fine and everything was going well. And then something changed. And sometimes that was something that was beyond their control. And sometimes it wasn't, like the person just, made a choice to start going down that dark alley. But sometimes it would be like, maybe a person lost their job and they kind of got depressed, or there was a loss of some kind. But relationships can change. And you have to be willing to let go. Because the longer you stay in a toxic, dangerous situation, the worse it will be if you try to get out. The worse it will be for you, even if you do survive it, the memories, man, the nightmares, the torture of knowing that you let yourself be mistreated and disrespected, unchecked, and you did that for a long period of time. And even sometimes you feel bad that you even loved a person who was so wicked and dark, but you did. And you maybe still do, but you can't be with them. You must be willing to let go. Now, this is very complicated sometimes, because sometimes you're in a relationship where if you let go, that person is going to try to hurt you if you let go. And again, I believe in paperwork and pistols. I pray with everything I got. I don't want to ever be in a confrontation with a person and I have to try to fight for my life or hurt somebody or somebody trying to hurt me physically. I don't want to ever be in that situation. But I do see this happening a lot. And many times what will happen is the woman will go, this happens every day actually. They go and they file some kind of paperwork like for a restraining order. That person is not supposed to be in contact with them. They're not supposed to be in contact with the person. But paperwork doesn't stop people. And they breach that all the time. And even though they want to mistreat the person, they don't want to do right, there is something, it's complicated, I won't get into it. There's something that leads them to destroy the person rather than them going on and living their life and being able to create whatever they want. They don't want to live on the earth with you being happy. And that's what happened in that case in Ohio, where this woman, she and her husband, her dentist husband, they were killed. Mind you, she had been divorced for several years. The killer, the accused killer, the lead suspect, is her ex-husband. Now, mind you, when he was with her, he didn't want to treat her right. He abused her. He mistreated her. Then she said, okay, you don't want to treat me right. That's no problem. I'm leaving. I'm letting go. And she did. She went on and she found somebody that seemed to have loved her and respect her. She seemed happy. They had kids together, and everything seemed to be going fine. Well, her ex-husband was not happy that she was happy. Every time these people kill their exes or their girlfriends, they prove why the girlfriend didn't want to be with them in the first place. Nobody wants to be beaten. Nobody wants to be mistreated. Nobody wants to be with you and then you turn around and you sleep with other men and women. Nobody wants to sit down and eat a meal. And they got to be worried about, did you put something in their food? Did you put something in their contact lens case? Like nobody wants to live like that. Or you can't be responsible. You're not going to pay the bills, or you're going to stay up all night watching filth, and then when you get up the next morning, you're not in a good mood. You can't function the best on your job, so you're not going to keep it. You don't have a good set of values. You don't believe in God. You don't want to really do anything with the person. You just want to use the person. You want to use them for what they have. Like nobody wants to be in that. Then when you say to that person, you know what, I wish you well, I can't handle it, I don't want to do it. They got, and sometimes these people are involved in, like I said, perversion, deviant behavior. They don't really, they're not connected to God. So they want to do things that are unnatural and perverted. And when you don't want to do it, it's like, okay, they're going to try to get it from somebody else. It's not you. Okay. They'll live with you. They'll stay with you. They're going to get it from somebody else. And you don't want that. Then when you do try to let them go, they seem to not understand. It's weird that, okay, you don't want to treat me right. You don't really love me. You don't really want to be with me, but you want me to be miserable. And that's the sick part. And that's where, when you're connected to Satan, because Satan is the author of confusion, of pain, of suffering, of hurt. If a person really loved you, they would let you go. If they know that they cannot be with you and you can be happy, and most women are reasonable. I know you got different kind of women out there, but most women, they just want regular stuff like love me, respect me, let's do some things together. They want normalcy. They don't want to be in a relationship with a perverted man. Like most women, kind of the same, right? Well, if you can't do it, you find somebody. There's somebody for everybody. In a lot of these cases, when you do try to let go, they don't like that. And they're not willing to let go, even though they could, because they were living without you before they met you. And they could keep living without you after that breakup. And they could go on and they could heal. And the girl was trying to say this, bless her heart. They could, but they won't. And that's what you have to accept. You can't make them heal. You cannot make them do right. You cannot make them have a relationship with God. Now you can pray, you can hope, you can, you can just pray that they will find God so they can heal. But if they don't, it's nothing you can do. So I just want to put that out there. You have to let go. Now, the longer you stay in it, the harder it's going to be to get out. And this is where most women end up getting hurt. And you do have to, if you're in a toxic relationship where it's not going to be easy to get out, you have to kind of plan that. You have to be very careful about the plan. You need to be coming up with ways to protect yourself. So you have to, take the paperwork, and you have to try to protect yourself and prepare for the worst. And you have to try to be able to respond in a way where you protect, because you can't, if you dead, God can't, you can't be used for the kingdom. You're gone, you're on in heaven, but you don't want that. And so you got to try to, and that's very hard to do. And it's unfortunate people have to try to do it, but you have to try to do it. Try to keep praying for that person, that they will find hope and healing and health and move on. That's one of the prayer, move on with your life, because you didn't want me. It didn't work out. I'm not really your type anyway. I'm a nerd. I don't do what you do. It's okay. And you try to pray that, but then you have to protect yourself. Be willing to let go if it changes. And that happens sometimes. That happens a lot. You might have had some good memories, but there might have been a lot of bad situations in that. And anyway, in the case in Ohio, going back to this, they divorced and she went on with her life, and apparently he didn't. Now, mind you, and I talked to my students about this man was a vascular surgeon. So you can have intellect, but again, if you don't have that personal connection to the Most High God, if your spiritual quotient is not right, if you're not right spiritually, nothing's going to work. Because God would have told him, look, you mistreated this woman, you threatened her life, you were emotionally abusive, you were going to get physically abusive. I don't want her to be treated like dirt. So I want her to go on and find somebody else because I want her to be happy. I want her to laugh. I want her to smile. I want her to be productive. And since you won't do that and you won't get healing from me, I'm letting her go. Now you let go. That's not the case. That's not what happens. He went back, he stalked her. This is years and years later, and he killed her. And he's not the first one to do it. And that's what's really unfortunate. That's what's scary, because then you've been in a relationship before and the person didn't want to treat you right, but then they turn around and blame you. I think that's the painful thing, when this person has done every evil thing towards you. They have cheated on you. They have abdicated their responsibilities financially towards you or your child or your children. They have given you diseases. They have tried to kill you. If they tried to point, they've done all these evil things towards you, but you have just given them things. You've given them money. You've given them your things. They've destroyed your stuff, your car, your whatever. And then they turn around. This is the add insult to injury or injury to insult. They turn around and then blame you. That is really painful, but that happens too. And so because they're blaming you and it's all you caused this. And you're like, sir, I've done everything I could do. And that's Satan, because Satan will twist their minds. He's already twisted their mind to believe that their whole purpose is to just fulfill their flesh. So they don't think like God. They don't have godly thoughts. They turn around and blame you. And because they really believe that something outside of them, Satan has convinced them that something outside of themselves has caused these issues, that's when all their anger and their resentment is towards you. And that's when they usually would take some kind of action. It's because, again, the disconnection from God. Then when they kill you, they just prove why you didn't want to be with them in the first place. You see, this is why I don't want to be with you, because you're a killer. You're an abuser, right? I don't want that for me. God doesn't want me to be abused. He doesn't want me to be cheated on. He doesn't want me to be poisoned. Those kinds of things happen every day, all day. And so you still can't stay in it. You can't. You got to let your faith be above your fear. And you do have to take, faith without work is dead. You do have to take action to try to protect yourself. You have to try to prepare. That's hard, but you got to. And you got to be ready. You got to pray for strength. You got to pray like David when he fought Goliath. God give me the strength to take them out. And that's unfortunate. And you hope and pray you never have to do that. But be willing to let go. I want to end with this. We're at the end of the video. Just remember the number one thing, that God wants you to be loved. And He wants you to be respected. And He doesn't want you to be crying. He doesn't want you to suffer. He doesn't want you to be hurt, physically, emotionally, in any way. In order to avoid that, you must first have a very strong personal connection with Him. Every time I do these episodes, I try to direct people back to a relationship with the Most High God. That relationship allows you to have a personal spiritual experience. God is a spirit, and we are connected to Him spiritually. And so you must have a personal relationship for yourself where you are deeply connected. You are talking to God. You're listening to God. You're meditating on what God wants for your life. And you're letting God guide you to what to read, where to go, what to listen to, what to see, because that's how you nurture and build that relationship. Once you have a strong, unwavering relationship in the Most High God, you will feel love. You will have self-love. You will have a sense of self-worth. And you will not allow yourself to be in relationships where you are disrespected and you are mistreated. You're not mad at anybody, but you're not going to let that happen until you have this attitude like live and let go. Live and love and let go. And it's just that simple. And so that's how you can avoid doing one of those videos like that young lady did. Is first you got to love yourself. And when you love yourself, you're not desperate. When you love yourself and you're connected to God, you pay attention to the warning signs. You understand, okay, if I am in this relationship, these are the expectations that I should have. This is what we should be doing. And if nobody wants to do it, I can't be in a relationship because I know I can't meet this person's expectations. They are what they are. Maybe they'll find them from somebody else. And you're good. I hope that this episode helped you to make better decisions in your relationships. And again, you can contact me, email me a question, badthoughtTherapy@gmail.com. Like the video, please subscribe. I am on Facebook and Instagram with the handle @badthoughtTherapy, and also X, formerly known as Twitter, and the handle is @losebadthoughts. I hope you will help me, be led to help me continue to grow this podcast. And that is done by apparently you liking and subscribing or interacting with the post. And I want to thank you again for tuning in to Bad Thought Therapy. Peace and abundant blessings.